Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rebreak Radio, episode 14, not 144, which I apparently wrote in the notes. It's episode 14. I'm Dennis, and I'm joined today by Oscar.
Hello, I'm here also.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about Stardew Valley, we're going to talk about Cuphead, we're going to talk about Golf Story, we're going to talk about South Park, The Fractured But Whole. Those are the games we're going to review. Later on, we're going to talk about EA closing Visceral Games and making Amy Hennig's Star Wars game into another Destiny clone, which we don't need. And then we're going to talk about us going to Ready Player 3, which was the live show from Game Grumps and Jacksepticeye. Just going to talk quickly about
about
what we...
Stockholm.
Yeah.
Well, they've been going on a tour, but we saw it in Stockholm.
Yeah. And then we're going to finish up with a review of the entire series of Blade Runner. So we're going to talk about Blade Runner, we're going to talk about the shorts, and we're going to talk about Blade Runner 2049, but mostly 2049. Yeah. And then spoiler cast as well. Let's start with our, my impressions, or basically review of Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change
Sounds
that.
Good.
Review. So yeah, I've been playing Stardew Valley. I did that about a couple of weeks ago. Just in the when there weren't really a lot of games to play, I bought Stardew Valley because I heard a lot of good things about that game. And I have to say that I liked it. I think it was a pretty fun game.
So should we talk about what Stardew Valley actually is first?
Yeah, so Stardew Valley is it's a farming simulator. It's basically a farming simulator, but like in a 16-bit style. So if you've played, I've heard that a lot of people compare it to games like Harvest Moon. And because the developers of Harvest Moon hasn't made a game in a while, this guy made the Stardew Valley, which is basically a new Harvest Moon.
Yeah, and you collect materials to better your ranch, I guess, and then you talk to people and have relationships.
Yeah. So you live in this, you move to this town, and what is the most impressive thing is that this game was made by one person. It's insane. But anyway, you move into this town, and in the town there are a lot of different citizens, a lot of people who live there, and you can talk to all these people. You can have relationships with all these people, and there are specifically a lot of single characters that you can get married to, and they'll move into your ranch and all that stuff. That was my main goal during the game. The farming stuff was kind of in the background.
I'm gonna get a relationship and get laid.
Exactly. No, but the farming stuff was pretty fun. It got a bit tedious because every day you have to water all of your plants, and that's kind of the most boring part about it. But I like the part of where you organize your farm and kind of line things up the way they are. You can see everything grow, and then you pick them up and you go to sell it or use it or whatever you decide to do. I decided to sell pretty much everything I made. Just all for that cash. My actually, I'm just gonna backtrack a little bit. So the game is instead of having months of the year, the entire year is split up into 4 seasons, and every season is basically the length of a month, but every day is about, I would say, a day is about 5 to 10 minutes, I think.
That's really quick. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's split up in Monday. Yeah, every weekday. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I think the most cool part about this game is the fact that every character, the characters in the game are not controlled by AI. they're actually like they move around on a scripted basis. If you go to the Stardew Valley wiki, they actually have mapped out exactly where characters walk
Yeah.
all the time, every day. So basically, it's sorted by season and then by day. So for example, in summer, this character will be here on a Monday during this time.
And we'll do this. Like,
Yeah,
pick
and
carrots Monday, first season. Picking carrots, and this is how you start like this event by talking to this person at this moment.
yeah, so I think this is a really cool idea. It's kind of borrowing from Majora's Mask, basically, but on a way bigger scale. Zelda Majora's Mask.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good game. 3 days.
Yeah.
3
but yeah,
days.
basically my main goal during the game was to get married. So that was what I did basically every day. That was my goal every day in the game. And after, I think it was after an in-game year,
Yeah,
I got married. So
that's pretty good
to
work, I guess.
yeah, to the character known as Haley.
Okay. Is she
Yes.
good to you? Is she
Yeah,
treating
she's
you right?
she's treating me right, sure. But yeah, I think it's a fun game. After I got married, I didn't really have a purpose in the game anymore, so I stopped playing it. So, but the game is really all about what goal you set out to achieve in the game. And when I achieved the goal that I set out to myself, I didn't really have a lot of more interest in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the farming on its own isn't really that fun, especially because it gets really repetitive. Because there are 28 days in every month, and there are 4 months in a year, and there are 4 seasons in a year. So
You keep doing
that
the same
is
thing over and over again, I guess.
yeah. So it's 28 days times 4. So and you have to water your plants every day unless you get a sprinkler, but I didn't. But yeah, I think it's a fun game if you like games like Minecraft. I think you'd definitely enjoy Stardew Valley.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
should I talk about what I've been playing?
Yeah, so you've been playing Cuphead. Actually,
Yeah.
I tried it when I was at your place, but yeah, you'll mainly talk about it, and I'll kind of
Yeah,
bring in my
exactly.
points as well.
I purchased Cuphead when it came out because, well, there was like a billion YouTube videos on Cuphead. And what this game is, it's basically renowned for being very difficult, and it's a side-scrolling shooter game with should I say animations from like the 40s or 30s, like 1920s, 1930s, 1940s.
Yeah, the visuals are inspired by 1930s animation.
Yeah. So
If
they
you
they call it
watched
rubber
like
hose.
early Disney cartoons, like Steamboat Willie and other cartoons like that, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, the character is very like similar to Mickey Mouse. He has a cup for a head, though. That's the main difference. Like otherwise, they're pretty much identical. So what you do is that you get into like this contract with the devil, and you have to collect souls, and you have to defeat bosses that are people's. That's how you collect the souls. You have to defeat bosses, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's really difficult, and you're gonna
Yeah, the
die a
game is
lot.
known for its difficulty.
Yeah. So I played it. I've gotten about halfway through the game.
So what do you think about it so far?
I think it's fun. I kind of like this. I like the style. You kind of get like the visual appeal of the game is definitely there. You enjoy beating bosses and seeing what stages they have and how the animations are and so on. And
Yeah.
I find that the difficulty is definitely. It's like so far it's been good. I haven't really like gotten stuck until now. I'm stuck at a dragon boss.
S-
Yeah.
So from the minimal time that I spent with the game when I was at your place, I thought the game was very repetitive and I actually said to you that I actually don't really like this game. So do you feel like the game has gotten repetitive to you at this point?
No, not really. I think that the bosses are different enough. The only thing that I find can be repetitive is the stages where you like run from one end to the other, the run and gun stages. But even
Yeah.
they are usually have some kind of mechanic or enemy that makes them like interesting. But I get your perspective. I mean, it's basically a side scroller where you shoot enemies. So I get why people would find it repetitive.
Yeah. We talked about this, and you I don't think you necessarily agree with me,
Mm.
but I think the major my major problem with Cuphead is the fact that you're just holding the shoot button all the time, and there's no reason for you to release it. So why
Yeah,
hold it?
yeah.
That's kind of my thing.
That's kind of
And
it's kind of stupid, and I guess I think it wouldn't probably be better if it was automatic. I think it's just kind of one of the issues. It's like, is it better to hold it all the time or to have it released all the time? Shoot button.
yeah, I think there's just like a fundamental problem with the game because I said this to you. I don't know if this would actually work, but I think the game already has a more better designed way of actually hurting the boss, and that's the parry system.
Yeah.
But that's not how it actually works in the game. So
Yeah.
if you look at the game's design, and this is usually how most boss designs are, is that you are supposed to use platforming to avoid the boss's attacks
Mm.
until you get the opening for you to attack.
Yep. Avoid is the key here because that's actually the thing that takes skill in the game.
Yeah. And here's kind of where my problem with Cupheads comes in is that you have this system, or well, the game is designed for you to just platform and then just make sure you shoot at him at the same time.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I think an interesting twist to the system would have been if to use the parry system of the game to actually act as the opening where you get to attack the enemy. So
But that
you
actually
avoid
is
all
done.
these attacks
I mean, they do that in quite a few bosses. Similar to
where
one
where
of these.
parrying the enemy attacks the enemy.
No, but you have to parry the enemy to be able to attack them. So,
Okay.
for example, like the frogs is one of the first bosses where you have to parry like a lever to be able to do damage to the boss.
Yeah, I think that is actually a better system because, yeah, my problem is just the fact that, and also like
Yeah.
when you
But
when you
it's a good
when you're
game.
platforming,
It's a good game.
yeah, it's
There
it's a
are
good game.
people
I
who
just
like
have,
it. It's like
yeah,
I understand this game is quite like the split in the community because there are people who like it and there are people who like find it that it has issues, and I think it definitely both have strengths and drawbacks. So it depends on what kind of person you are, if you like the game or not, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you like the game. I have one major problem with the game. I'm sure if I just got over this problem, I would like the game. But yeah, I can't really afford to buy it right now and play it anyway. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, do you have anything else you want to say about Cuphead?
I mean, I wouldn't play the game like long instances. I think it's a good game to like just if you want to like do one level and then jump out of it. It's
Almost like it would have been perfect on Switch. Am I right?
yeah, it would have been perfect on Switch. That's all I have to say, basically.
Yeah. All right. So I actually don't remember if I talked about Golf Story on the show, but anyway, I've finished Golf Story now, and I'm ready for my ultimate review of Golf Story.
Yes.
So
This
if
is
you
a
don't know what,
game you've been
yeah,
playing.
yeah, if you don't know what Golf Story is, it's the title is very descriptive. It's a golf game with a story.
Yeah.
So it's basically what you would get if you mix, I would say, Earthbound with Mario Golf.
Yeah. So let's say Earthbound is kind of like an RPG game from the
Yeah,
90s, I think, on the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super
Super
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Super Nintendo, yeah. But yeah, so the game is it's a 16-bit game from like a top-down perspective. Um, and you play golf. That's the thing. The story is like it's a pretty funny game, and the story really doesn't take itself seriously, which is a really good thing. Like the setup of the story is like that. The guy you're playing is having like, I think, like a midlife crisis, or is or I think he's like 20 or something like that. I'm not really sure how old he is, but he decides that he wants to like I
Does
don't
he
know.
honor his father or something? His
Yeah,
father's
honor his
memory?
father by playing golf.
This is like the best
So
story ever.
basically, you go to this place called Well-Worn Grove, and you start playing golf, and yeah, all throughout this, like, if in the beginning there's you meet these kind of golf students basically, and the coach, you pay to get a lesson, and the coach tells you like, well, you do like a swing, and you show him like, and it's pretty good, like it's a pretty good swing, like it hits the target in a way, and he says like, that's fucking horrible. He doesn't
You
swear, but
suck.
yeah, he says like, you suck, this is a terrible swing. And then he tells like one of his students to swing, and and he swings, and it just goes to the left into the trees and all that, and he says like, great job, great job.
You're the best. Yeah. Not
Yeah,
biased at
exactly.
all.
Yeah, so that's what you have to deal with in Golf Story. um
I gotta say, this sounds great.
yeah,
Especially the fact that it like has a backstory. I know you said he's having a midlife crisis and he's like divorced or something, and
yeah,
while
he's
it's like this
divorced too.
colorful like 16-bit world or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the gameplay is really good. My biggest problem with the gameplay is that since the game, it's a 16-bit game, so obviously the course is in 3D. So you can't see slopes, you can't see yeah, you can't see how the course slopes.
Mm.
And luckily they only really use that in the green, like the area around the flagpole.
Yeah.
So that's only the really point where you're gonna have to worry about it. The problem is when it gets to different types of slopes. So you have like a slight slope, you have a medium slope, or you have a heavy slope. And I played through the entire game. I think my game clock is like 20 hours or something like that, and
Mm.
I never learned how much a slope affects your ball.
Mm.
And that's the biggest problem with the game, because like at a point later on in the game, I started using chip-ins more than I putted the ball. So a chip-in is when you use the wedge, like the club that you usually use in like bunkers and stuff like that, to like hit it out of the bunker.
Okay. Oh.
So I
I
just used that.
see. So
I
that
used
makes it
that
jump.
club. Yeah, so I used that club to arc the ball into the hole. So I basically
Yeah.
just got a slam dunk chip in like all the time, because that was easier than actually having to deal with the slopes.
Yeah. This is a problem because it isn't a 3D game, so I suppose I understand that that can be a better way to solve the issue. Just don't make it touch the ground.
Yeah, because at that point you have to deal with the wind, and the wind isn't usually the wind isn't strong enough to actually impact the ball enough when you're that close to the flag anyway.
Mm.
So yeah, it was usually easier to just chip in the ball instead of actually putting. So that was kind of a frustrating thing. But yeah, I also think the game is way too long. Because and during the entire game, which is like 20 hours long,
Mm.
there are only 3 tournaments. like 3 pro tournaments during the entire game.
Mm.
There are 8 stages where you challenge other characters, and there are 8 courses, and you play on these 8 same courses on your own. So basically there are 16 plus 3, 19 times where you actually play golf in this game.
That's not very
20
much.
hours, and there are only 19 times where you are basically made to play golf, which is what the game is about.
I suppose the story has to be intriguing then.
Yeah, the story it's funny. Like, it's funny. That's the point. Like, it's a funny story, but it definitely gets
It's not a
too
golf
long in the
story,
tooth.
it's a funny story.
Yeah, so there are basically like 8 worlds in the game, and I think the game would have been fine with about 5 or 6. And maybe like made the rest of the worlds like an end game thing or something like that.
Mm.
But yeah, the game really felt like too long, and that was my biggest problem with the game. Like, I was at like I think like the almost final world, and there was this point where the game totally glitched out, and like I lost a lot of progress, and I'm like, fuck this shit. I started playing Stardew Valley, and then like 15 hours later I finished Golf Story. Because after I was done with Stardew Valley. So yeah.
You had achieved your relationship goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, that's my biggest problem with Golf Story. It's
but it
too
sounds
long,
like a cool game though.
Yeah, it's a really cool game. I think if you are the kind of gamer who doesn't sit and play a game for a longer period of time, Golf Story is definitely for you. If you're someone who just kind of jumps in and play for like half an hour, and then kind of shuts it off and starts playing later on, Golf Story is the game for you. Golf Story is not Golf Story is not the kind of game that you binge through. It is too long for that, and it gets really boring if you do so. Yeah. But I definitely recommend the game. It's really fun, and I definitely recommend it.
Cool.
All right, so next up is quick impressions of South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Be sure you say butthole and not the other way.
Yeah, I actually thought it was the fractured butthole and not the fractured butthole. I mean, it's almost like philosophical and like intelligent when you say it like as it is. I was surprised. This is like, it's almost like a beautiful title.
Yeah. So South Park: The Fractured But Whole is the sequel to South Park: The Stick of Truth, which came out in 2014. And it is an RPG, and actually, just quickly back to Golf Story. It's an RPG, and I don't like the RPG elements. Let's go back to South Park.
All these games are RPGs and they suck.
Yeah, but in Golf Story, the RPG elements are completely unnecessary. Like, they just make your swing longer and whatever, and I never felt like that it actually impacted my gameplay, so it was just completely unnecessary. Anyway, back to South Park. Same thing here. The RPG elements are completely unnecessary and doesn't actually impact the game in any significant way, and could have been removed and would have been done better. But the game is fun. The game is fun, and the game is extremely funny. Like, it is insanely funny. I'm someone who really loves South Park's style of humor, so this game is really, really hitting it for me. The fact, and just like the shock value in the fact that they don't really care about about offending anybody.
Yeah.
Like, it is just, I love South Park's sense of humor, and even though like South Park isn't designed that you're supposed to like agree with their outrageous jokes and stuff like that, but it's just is in a world like today where everything is like, how dare you assume my gender, and all this, like, where everyone is a social justice warrior and all this stuff. South Park is just so fitting in in the world today because they just don't fucking care.
Yeah, and it kind of like it's good because it gives us some perspective of our own like how we treat things and how we go like how we are social justice warriors and whatever. But
Yeah.
I remember I know it's like popular like it has become like a thing on the internet because in the character customization screen this is one of their like a thing.
Yeah.
Uh, y-
So when you make your character, you first kind of dress your character and all this stuff, and then you get the screen where it says choose your difficulty,
yeah.
and the difficulty is on a scale of your skin tone.
So basically, like white is easy, and then black is really difficult, and then
Yeah.
it's like everybody says, "Why is this related to my like to how difficult the game is gonna be?" And then like
Yeah,
what's
Cartman. Yeah, if
Yeah,
you're in the screen for a little bit too long, Cartman says like, "This will not affect combat, just every other aspect of your life,"
yeah,
and it's just so like hilariously dark, and that
yeah.
is just the best way to describe South Park. It's hilariously dark.
I mean, there is
But
some
yeah,
truth in it probably because you know, police things and such.
yeah,
But it's
and
like
there is
it's
actually
comedy.
there. There's actually like a quest in the game where you work for the cops, and you like the cop is like, we've found this like drug dealer, and you have to go arrest him, and then you just go into the house, and it's like the house of a black family, and you have to arrest this black dude who's completely innocent.
Yeah, yeah, dark
Um,
humor.
yeah. But yeah, I think the game is fun. The game is very inspired by games like Fire Emblem.
Hmm.
The combat is the original game's combat was more inspired by games like Paper Mario.
Mm.
It had this like turn-based system where you could actually where you interact a more interactive type of turn-based game. You know,
Yeah.
if you're familiar with like the Mario Luigi games and Paper Mario, you know what I'm talking
It's
about.
like Pokemon. You choose your attack, and then your enemy chooses their attack, and then it's like turn-based.
Yeah, but it's more interactive than that. Like the attacks, the effectiveness of the attacks depends on how well you execute the commands on screen.
Oh yeah.
But in this game, those aspects of the game are still there, but now you have this Fire Emblem-esque grid system that you're in.
So it's basically more complicated. I
Yeah,
suppose.
but it's really good, and the game really plays around a lot with the positioning of your characters and stuff like that. And there's like, there's an effect some moves have called knockback,
Mm.
where if you attack a character, that character will like fall backwards, and if they knock into another enemy, that enemy will also
Knock back
be
and
damaged.
be like damaged. Yeah.
That enemy will also be damaged. If you knock an enemy into another one of your team members, that means the team member will punch back. So basically, the enemy will like be hit from character 1 into character 2, so you get like a damage bonus.
Yeah.
It's a really it's a really nice system actually, and it gets you to think about positioning of your characters and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just it's so funny. Like it is so funny. One of the funniest parts of the game is in this strip club
Okay.
where you basically have this
interested.
like boss rush against against strippers,
Pimps
and
and
the
strippers.
DJ yeah, and the DJ in the background is like but get your hands up for Stephanie. When every stripper like comes up on and up against you and stuff like that. It's so funny, and none of them are called Stephanie. They actually have like these really stripper-esque names,
Yeah.
but I couldn't come up with any of them right now. And the best part is when like the boss comes up, and like the biggest boss of them all, and it's like this huge, extremely fat black woman who's called Spontaneous Butte.
Okay.
And this funniest moment is like, because it has like this really like dubstep-ish music in the background, and then when she like shows up, it's like she's like, get ready to get twerked on. It's like boom 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 boom, and like this
Yeah.
slow motion thing where she like shows up on screen and all that. It's so funny. uh
Yeah, I think this is
I really
it's
don't give it
interesting
justice,
how
but
games and television have been like separate concepts, but now South Park is kind of like mixing them together, making comedy in games. So I
yeah.
think many people would be able to appreciate a game like this.
Yeah, and the Stick of Truth was parodying was parodying things like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
and the Fractured But Whole is parodying superhero movies. So you have Coon and Friends, and you have the Freedom Pals. Coon and Friends is basically Marvel in this case, and Freedom Pals is DC. So, uh, one of the funniest parts in the game is when you have the first civil war. So it's Coon and Friends versus Freedom Pals, and it's civil war. And in the midway of the fight, like they're on the street and all that, and you have like the battle and all this stuff.
Yeah.
and a car comes running by, so the character's like, car, 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 and everyone just walks up on the on the walkway. And then the car comes around like, you stupid kids, you want to kill or something. And then Super Craig is like the best character in the game. He's so funny.
Yeah.
He says like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, asshole, it's Civil War, dick.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And Super Craig, like, he is hilarious. While every other character in the game is like, they're like so full into like the role play that is happening right now. Everyone
Yeah.
is so deeply into their superhero character. And Super Craig, like, he just has this normal outfit and an S, like a paper with an S taped on his stomach. And
So
he's
basically,
just
he's
like,
Craig, but now he's Super Craig.
yeah, exactly. Like, he just doesn't fucking care.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like,
this game
whatever.
sounds great.
Yeah, and whenever like a character like Kyle, who is Human Kite,
Yeah.
he'll like, get ready for the human kite, and all that stuff. And Super Craig will like say like, dude, dude, like, dial it down, man. You're
Dial
getting
it
too
down.
into it.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
That's all.
And yeah, and the game also had, like, during the battles, the characters will like do banter with each other. It's so funny.
Yeah. Should we move into the topic of today?
Yeah. So let's move on. Yeah, you should play South Park: The Fractured But Whole, I think. However, if you haven't, I would say you should be caught up on the show and also played South Park: The Stick of Truth. You get, I don't know if you get Stick of Truth anymore. If you pre-order the game, you got Stick of Truth for free. But I don't know if you get it still. Check the descriptions of the stores and all that to see if you still get it. But yeah, you should play Stick of Truth first, and you should be caught up, but with at least the last like 3 seasons or something of South Park, I think, before you play the game.
Yeah. So our topic.
Yeah. So the first topic of today is that EA closed down Visceral Games and is changing the focus of Amy Hennig's Star Wars game that she was working on over there at Visceral Games.
Yeah. So this was a game that was like in the Star Wars universe, but it was supposed to be like inspired by Naughty Dog's Uncharted games.
Yeah, so if you're not caught up on this story, we're gonna go back to like the backstory here, but basically Electronic Arts, EA, announced like a few days ago that they're shutting down Visceral Games, the studio who's been behind games like Dead Space and Battlefield Hardline. They announced they were gonna close them down, and they released this, and also they also said that the The Star Wars game that they were working on with Amy Hennig um, will be refocused and retooled into a new kind of game.
So this is what we're afraid of, because
Yeah,
I know you've been speaking a bit about this before, and what they're going to like reshape this game into. Do you
yeah.
have
So
some?
let me read the statement that released here.
Mm,
So throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design. We will maintain the stunning visuals, authenticity in the Star Wars universe, and focus on bringing a Star Wars story to life. Importantly, we are shifting the game to be a broader experience that allows for more variety and player agency, leaning into the capabilities of our Frostbite engine and reimagining central elements of the game to give players a Star Wars adventure of greater depth and breadth to explore.
yeah. So this means that they're actually like not going to have any kind of linear design probably. So it's not going to be a
Yeah,
story-based game in the sense like Uncharted. Uh,
exactly.
mm,
So, and they also continue to say here that a development team from across EA Worldwide Studios will take over development of the game, led by a team from EA Vancouver that has already been working on the project. Our Visceral studio will be ramping down and closing, and we're in the midst of shifting as many of the team as possible to other projects and teams at EA. And then they also updated when asked about Amy Hennig's future at EA. A representative for the company told Polygon we're in discussions with Amy about her next move.
yeah.
So when this story came out, it was all over the gaming space of the internet. Everyone was totally like trashing at EA because this is not a good, like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this what I'm about to say. This is not a good direction for the gaming industry.
No. And it's I mean most people reading this probably doesn't understand what it actually means, and at first probably didn't understand it as well, but when you mentioned it and what direction this is actually going to take, I too agree with you.
Yeah. So obviously, this statement it's all marketing speak. Like it's all, it's
Yeah,
all bullshit.
it's fluff.
But yeah, in order for me, but let me just blatantly translate it for you. This is basically, um, we wanted to make Destiny. Amy Hennig did not want to make Destiny.
Yeah. So now we're making Destiny.
Yeah, and now we're making Destiny, but Star Wars.
Using
So yeah,
using the
it's
universe that we've like made, the Star Wars universe and the
yeah,
Frostbite engine. We're keeping Star Wars and Frostbite engine and making something that can involve more players and more going back into like just playing over and over again.
yeah. So let's get into why this is a bad thing. So first of all, like Destiny style games, I don't think are very good for the industry at all. The type of games that Destiny have kind of surfaced are games that could have that they're so mindless and so
Repetitive.
hard. Yeah, they're so repetitive and they're so mindless. They're so based around the RPG elements that
Yeah.
you like most of these games you could set an algorithm to make these games because there's no sense of design into this. Like it is just not. They're not designed to be fun. These games are designed to be long. They're
Yeah.
designed to be long, and they're designed to for players to come back to for a long time to come, as he said.
Mm.
And
Yeah, they appeal
yeah,
for like there is like this grinding concept. When you say RPG elements, you mean the grinding. And
Yeah.
there is some kind of weird appeal to this where people, it's not really fun, but people like to grind. People like come back
Yeah.
and do it even though it's not fun. Yeah.
If you talk to the Destiny community about Destiny and you say like, why can't I just go play the raid? The raid is what people say is the most fun part about Destiny, and people say, no, you're supposed to grind, and that is the worst statement I've ever heard. That is the worst thing I've ever heard. If a game is designed so that you're supposed to do something boring for like over 10 hours or something like that, that is not a good game. That is really bad design.
And this ties into like microtransactions and such also, because
Yes,
grinding
exactly.
is to improve your like RPG elements, like your stats and your weapons. And it's
Yeah,
very
and
easy to sell people these kinds of level ups or weapons.
yeah. So when you bring in this concept of grinding, you're like, okay, so the players will have to spend an extended period of time getting up to the point where they need to be to play the good part of the game. So at that point, you're like, but what if we offer the players to buy their
Yeah.
way to the fun part of the game? And that's where we get microtransactions. That's where we get loot boxes. And
Yeah.
that's where we get all this bullshit. Because if you think about it, um, loot boxes and microtransactions and all this stuff are very hard to implement into well-designed games.
Yeah, into story-based games where you can,
Yeah,
where it's basically like a book. You're like, oh, this is an interesting character. Here we have development. I learned something from watching this chapter, and then like, oh, this was a good ending. You can't really like, yeah, here is your better weapon, and here is your like stronger arms, and that's because when you have a community-based game like Destiny, people want to stay competitive, and it's like it's all about like combat and just that thing. But when you have a story, it's about like experiencing the story, and yeah, it's not about just the combat.
yeah, exactly. And I want to make a video going more deeper into this topic about how the problems with the Destiny likes. But let's continue about the specifically this game. So let's say like, okay, let's say it's a good idea to make it into a Destiny game.
Mm.
This game has been in development for I think almost 4 years. And what they're basically going to do is they're going to take what has been made and retool it into another type of game. And it's just not a good idea. Like, you're taking all of these like assets and all these things that they've made and push it into a completely different game. And what I think we're gonna see at the end of the line when this game is out is that it's gonna be an extremely disjointed experience.
Mhm.
You're gonna see like the remains of this single player game, and then probably like in the middle of the story or something like that, which is probably pretty good. I mean, I would assume that the story will be pretty much intact, maybe, like,
Yeah.
or at least the basis of the story will still be the
It
same.
it will probably like be more like you've shoved the combat instances of the game probably into the story, so the story and the gameplay probably feels more separate, but maybe the story is intact. That's how I
Like
think anyway.
I would like venture to guess that we're gonna see like this good story moment, and then all of a sudden like, let's go play with your friends, woo,
Yeah.
Destiny. Like it's
Let's
I'm
get back to the
like,
grind. That's
yeah, let's get back to the grind. It's time to grind for 10 hours before you can see the resolution to this story.
yeah, and then it's like this epic cutscene, and all the characters are doing something, and then it's back to the grind again.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very, very depressing. So, and the continuation of this is the fact that Amy Hennig is the lead writer and maybe game designer. I don't know exactly what her position of the game was. It was pretty high up anyway. And Amy Hennig might be a name that is familiar to some of you listening. Amy Hennig comes from Naughty Dog. And Amy Hennig she worked on Uncharted 1, 2, and 3,
Hmm.
and she started work on Uncharted 4, and she was for some reason forced out of Naughty Dog after about 2 years of development of the game, and the lead was then brought over to The Last of Us creators, Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. And so basically her Uncharted project was cancelled and retooled into the new Uncharted project. And yeah, that game was also being retooled into another game, but it was still a similar game, right? It was still a story-based linear adventure.
Yeah, Uncharted
So
4
it
was a
worked.
really good game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so she gets fired and her game gets retooled into a new game without her, so she starts working at EA and Visceral. Now her game gets cancelled and
Yeah.
retooled into something else being worked on by probably other people, because let's be honest, she's gonna quit from EA. So this means that Amy Hennig has not released a finished game since 2011 with Uncharted 3.
Yeah, it's
Just
sad for her.
yeah, like just imagine what she must be feeling right now. Like it must be horrible. Like she's been working tirelessly for probably like, yeah, for like 6 years, and it has just been nothing.
Yeah, that must be very unmotivating. It would be nice to hear what she thinks about all this. I don't know why she was like pushed out of the Uncharted 14, but I mean, still the situation's gotta suck, right?
Yeah, like and despite my feelings of Uncharted 4, like I personally think Uncharted 4 became a better game because she wasn't working on it, but it does not get away from the fact that Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 are great games, and this game would have been great still.
Mm.
So yeah, she's a very talented person, and it sucks to see the fact that she's not being allowed to release games anymore. Like all the games she's working on have been canceled.
Yeah, it's gotta be hard to get like. It's probably gonna be more difficult for her now to get like a good job because, like, it doesn't look good to be having two of your project cancelled. Also.
Yeah, exactly. Like the question is now, like, was the game canceled because it was a single player game, or was the game canceled because it had problems? And at that point, like, if the game was canceled because it had problems, then you have to ask, like, if this game had a problem and the original Uncharted 4 had a problem, does this mean that Amy Hennig is the core
problem.
of both problems?
Yeah. Yeah, this
And
is
I
very
think, like,
interesting.
yeah, and I think like if another studio, like let's say like Ubisoft or Activision or whoever, or even like Microsoft, like I don't know, but like whoever is like on the thinking about hiring Amy Hennig for a new project, they have to be considering these things, because no one wants to have a project that is gonna fail
No,
and it's
exactly.
gonna be filled with trouble and all of this stuff. And especially since she has two projects on her tail now that was riddled with with problems, and especially even before that, Uncharted 3 was a pretty divisive game as well. Some people loved it, including me, but some people really didn't like it. So yeah, she basically has two and a half problems following her right now, and it is not good for her for her career.
Yeah, I don't know her personally, and I'm not like I've not played many of the Uncharted games, but I hope she does well in the future and that everything goes all right.
Yeah, I hope she things goes well for her as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's it for this topic.
cool. Yeah, I think so
Yeah,
too.
so let's move on to the next topic, and that is Ready Player 3. So yeah, that was the Game Grumps live show
Yeah.
that we went to in Stockholm.
Are
I
you
traveled
ready?
by train for like 2 hours to get there.
pain and suffering.
Yeah. So, I'm personally a very big Game Grumps fan. I'm a big fan of Game Grumps, and I'm a big fan of Aaron Hansen specifically. And while I am a big fan of the other guys at Game Grumps, including like Danny, I am not necessarily a big fan of like Ninja Sex Party and Starbomb. Personally, I like more consistent music than like comedy music that they make. So nothing against, like, they're great at what they do. It's just not my kind of music. There are some of the songs that I really like, but yeah, I really love Game Grumps. I really love Aaron and his opinions about games. They have really helped shape my opinions of games. And the fact that he's helped me kind of see what games are really about. Games are about having fun. And if you watch a lot of his videos, like the sequelitis videos, like, you can see that he knows his shit.
He knows his shit, yeah.
Yeah, like if you watch what's it called, the Mega Man X video on the sequelitis Mega Man X video, it is so good. Like, how he just breaks down the intro level of Mega Man X is amazing. Like, he shows like how a first level of a game should be designed, because Mega Man X so perfectly shows you how the game is designed in every part of it, in every part of the first stage. And it's amazing. And yeah, he's really really good at displaying that, as well as having like a very comedic angle to it.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of Aaron, and I think my first instance of contact was like in 2008 or something, because that was when YouTube was young, and he started making like this awesome videos, which was parodies of games such as Metal Gear.
Yeah, the Awesome series.
Metal Gear Awesome or something. Metal
Yeah.
Awesome probably. And
My favorite is Pokey Awesome.
yeah, that's a more recent one, and he's been really like sticking. He's been active in the internet and gaming community for a while now, so I think he's definitely a great guy. And I agree with you that sequelitis is definitely a series that people should watch. Also,
Yeah. So what
the
is
Zelda
your
one is good.
what is your experience with Game Grumps? How much of them? How much Game Grumps have you watched?
I mean, they've been at it for a long time. I think like over 5 years at least. I started watching. I've not watched like constantly, but I've always like found their videos amusing. I know back in the day, Aaron and JonTron used to make videos.
Yeah, JonTron was the original Game Grumps buddy, basically.
Yeah, and I found
He was the
those-
original Not So Grump.
Not so grump. Yeah, so I think I've watched a lot of compilations like best moments, and a lot of their like greatest moments also get turned into cartoons, and I find them very funny too. I mean, they're comedians playing games basically. They're
Yeah.
really funny.
So, what is your experience with? Oh, well, I'm just gonna talk about Game Grumps first. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Game Grumps. I have a very interesting history with Game Grumps. I found Game Grumps like, I would say like a couple of years ago, and it was because I was a fan of JonTron. So I watched the original JonTron videos, and this was like a couple of years after he'd actually stopped at Game Grumps. So I watched like through most of his videos with JonTron, and I was like, who the fuck is this Danny guy? Like, fuck Danny. I want to watch Game Grumps with JonTron. And then I stopped watching. And then like a few years, like a couple of years later, I became a fan of...
The new Game Grumps, I guess.
I became a fan of Aaron specifically with his sequelitis videos, and then with the Awesome series. So then I started watching Game Grumps again, and this time I watched the Danny videos, and because now I didn't really care about but I was a fan of JonTron. Now I was a fan of Aaron, so the person he was playing with didn't really matter. So I started watching the Danny videos, and then I became just in love with Danny, because Danny is so fucking hilarious. He's so funny. He's so awesome. But yeah, so
Metal Gear. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I love Aaron, I love Danny, and it was like when they
I
announced
love
that
them
they were
all.
gonna be coming, when they announced they were gonna be coming to Europe, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to go there, aren't I? Um, and I think I kind of noted to it a few times in the podcast. I'm not in a very good financial situation right now, so it was like the fact I probably shouldn't have gone in the first place. Like it was way too expensive for me to go, but I did it because I had to. Like I don't know when I would have been able to see them another time, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but yeah.
mean,
So
yeah.
before we get into the Ready Player 3 show specifically, what do you know about Jacksepticeye? Because he was also there.
I've always known him as the guy PewDiePie talks about, and tries to like I don't know, like make fun of or whatever. Like he made
Yeah,
a parody channel, Jacksepticeye 2 or something. Yeah.
yeah. So but I've always known Jacksepticeye as the third guy in the big three of YouTube, or the big three within Let's Plays on YouTube, which
Mm.
is PewDiePie, Markiplier, and Jacksepticeye. So
I like that
um,
Markiplier and Jacksepticeye have like colors in their hair, so one is green and one is red. And there's PewDiePie, I guess he's normal, but he should also get a color.
I think he's had colored hair sometimes,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm not really familiar with Jacksepticeye at all. I've watched like one video of his or something like that, so I was not familiar with him at all, and that kind of scared me going into it because I was like, is this guy just not gonna hit it right with me? Like, is he gonna destroy the show because he's not my kind
Green
of guy,
guy, he's not your
Yeah.
Luigi.
But he fit in very well. I think he actually added a lot of great things to the show. So yeah, he didn't ruin it. He probably made it better.
Yeah.
Um,
I gotta say the
but yeah,
same thing. He seemed like a good guy.
yeah, he was pretty funny and all this stuff. And the most important part was that he fitted well with Aaron and Danny.
Mm.
So it didn't feel disjointed. Like it felt like they had been friends for a long time, which they probably have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the show specifically. So we sat on the third row to the left. So we were actually like pretty close to them.
Yeah. This was in Stockholm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not in front of them, but like on the side, but still
Yeah.
close enough to like really have a good see them well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really see them well.
And they played Mario Party,
Yeah.
and it was
So
good.
going into this, I had no idea what the show was gonna be. I had no idea. I just wanted to see them. That was like my goal with going here. I just wanted to see them
Mm.
because I'm such a huge fan of them. So the show didn't really matter at all to me. Like I just wanted to be there, you know.
Yeah.
So when the show actually started, it was like, okay, we're gonna play Mario Party 10. And yeah, it was just them playing Mario Party 10, and with player 1 being Aaron,
Yeah.
player 2 was Jacksepticeye,
Mm.
and player 3 was the right side of the audience,
Yeah.
and player 4 was the left side of the audience, which included us.
Yoshi.
Yoshi. So yeah, our team played as Yoshi. The player 3 team played as Donkey Kong. Aaron played as Peach, and the Jacksepticeye played as.
Was it Luigi? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was Luigi. Luigi was it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was. I thought it was really funny. I really liked the show, and every time a mini game was gonna happen, they picked up an audience member from that side of the
Yeah.
of the audience, and they got to play. And I watched like some of the videos recorded from that. Like my biggest problem with this is that it isn't archived. I just wanna watch it again. You know.
Yeah. definitely.
But yeah, I've like watched some short clips of all of the show again, and yeah, I thought it was really fun, really funny,
If
and
you combine like everybody recording it, like at certain stages of the event, you can probably like see everything again.
probably the worst part though is that you know the joke where with the Italian food joke.
Oh yeah, that has to be
Yeah,
recorded, right?
it is almost not recorded. There's
Oh,
this one recording of her friend doing it, and you can't really hear her very well.
I think we should say this joke so that people
Yeah,
understand.
it was. Yeah, it was so
Yeah,
good. If I can find a clip, I'm gonna insert it right here.
Your team is super hyped up for your inevitable win. What would that Italian dish be?
Are you Italian?
I am.
You.
and
Like
then,
it was so good.
yeah, and it's like it's the responses were so good too. Aaron was like, "Do you know my wife is here?"
Yeah, Aaron was just he was floored. Like he was like,
Yeah.
"What just happened?"
That has not happened before.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it's like
and
and then like the other side, the other teams like representative
yeah.
gets
So Danny,
asked the same question. Yeah.
yeah, it was Danny or Jack asked her like the same question and asked like, okay, and no one expected her to come up with a good comeback.
Yeah, but she
and
had a really
she
good comeback.
delivered, like she delivered so hard. So Danny or Jack asks her like,
Was Danny.
yeah,
Danny
so,
was like, "That's a really stupid question, Aaron. So we're just, I'm just gonna ask you the same question. So stupid."
yeah. So what is an Italian food that you would say to hype up your site? And she says something sweeter than Aaron, tiramisu. And everyone's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like that was probably like the best part in like
She
improv
was
comedy I've
stone
seen.
cold.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like no one expected the first joke to happen, and then
Yeah.
she fucking delivers with an even better one. It was,
She was
so
so
good.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't even flinch. That was like, I don't think many people would have been able to do that. Like deliver
Yeah.
that response. No.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy. And then, like, even better afterwards, Aaron says, like, the funniest part about this is that Susie, his wife, Susie's favorite food is tiramisu.
Yeah. That was really funny.
Yeah, so that was
So she gets
funny.
the best of two worlds, of both worlds.
So yeah, that was hilarious. And then like I think it was the last guy, like some guy from the Donkey Kong team came up and just fucking dabbed all the time.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why are you doing this? Why are you just dabbing all the time?
He said, "Go suck on a banana," and we were like, we didn't have a good response, but it didn't matter because we have like Joseph Joestar on our team that was also like doing some kind of dabbing, but like definitely better dabbing than that guy, I think. Yeah, because it was our team. Yeah, Yoshi.
Yoshi.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it was
yeah.
really funny. It was really fun. It was really funny. It was a great experience, I think, and I'm happy I went to it.
Yeah.
My only regret was that I saw on Twitter that if you just hung around, they actually came out to the merch area and started just like taking pictures with people. So
That's nice of them.
yeah, that was just my regret. Like, oh, if we just stayed around, we could have actually met them. So that was
Yeah, that
that
would
kind of sucked.
pretty epic. Meeting Aaron and Dan and Jack 60k. That would have been pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Exp-
But yeah, I think that's pretty much. Yeah, and we won.
yeah,
Our team won. Like the last guy who came up for our team, like he just fucking dominated in that boss fight.
Yeah, he was a Mario Party 10 Pro.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm just gonna show these noobs how it's done. These losers. It's like Game Grumps. Like, fuck these Grumps, I'm gonna go and win this shit.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this topic. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. If they're still doing things and they're coming to your town, go to it. It was fun. Just know that all they do is play one round of Mario Party 10, and then they have a Q&A.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into our last topic of the day. We're not doing the pitch today because we had so many topics to do. So our topic now is we're gonna talk about Blade Runner. So we're gonna review Blade Runner 2049, and we're gonna do like a spoiler cast about it.
I just gotta mention because I think it's so funny when you said that we should watch Blade Runner, I was like, yeah, I can watch that. I like Blade Runner. It's the guy beating the vampires and stuff, right?
You thought it was Blade.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Blade, but I've had that reaction before. That response before, where someone's like, "No, that's Blade, not Blade Runner."
That's not Blade Runner at all. Blade Runner is like a really old movie from the 80s, I think, right?
Yeah. So let's start with talking about Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner,
Yeah,
because
best-
we watched
best
it
movie.
the night before we went to see 2049.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. So what did you think about the original Blade Runner?
Yeah. So we viewed this the original Blade Runner, yeah, before watching the 2049.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you think about the original Blade Runner?
I think it was very good. It definitely installed some of the concepts that the movie was discussing, which is about like human AI, like something that cannot be distinguished from a real human, like a robot that's so smart that it doesn't even know that it's not human itself.
Yeah.
And it was a lot about slavery, and it did a good job in like presenting a world that was interesting to discuss with these AI concepts in it.
Yeah.
It did, however, have some issues.
Yeah, let me get into the
Yeah.
issues because so yeah, let's first the movie is beautiful. The original movie is beautiful. It definitely instills some like deep thoughts and all that stuff. But the problem is, while it is a beautiful movie and it's a deep movie, it doesn't know shit about how to tell a consistent narrative. Like, the original Blade Runner is so disjointed. It is like we had to pause like multiple times in the movie and like, what the hell is happening right now?
Yeah.
It just kind of we just had to like stop and like summarize the movie and like, okay, this happened, and this happened, and all this stuff. Like, it was just so disjointed and inconsistent. I feel.
I've
in its
actually
narrative.
already watched it one time before, and I was still kind of confused.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time.
Mm.
But yeah, it was it's a beautiful movie. It definitely has some deeper meanings and all that stuff. But I
Yeah.
did not like the original Blade Runner.
The presentation is kind of it's not very good. Well, I don't know if the presentation is bad, but as you said, like the direction, the movie is not directed in a way that's easily to understand. And while I think the confusion is kind of like interesting because it makes you actually have to like think a lot of yourself, what the fuck is going on? It's still, I can't say that it's well made. I think
Yeah, exactly.
in some ways I want to give props to the original Blade Runner because it actually was like the first to introduce this universe. So I think it should have the credit for that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, but that's the problem with it. Like, it
Yeah.
is more of a movie that just kind of tells you about things rather than actually being a consistent narrative.
I don't agree with that. It tells you about things because that's one of the things the movie did good. It did not tell you about some of the concepts in the movie, such as it's been debated if the original character is actually a robot or if he's a human, and that debate has been going on for like 30 years. And that's not
Replicant,
something.
not robot.
Yeah, replicant. That's better.
But yeah,
That's been
yeah.
going on.
Actually, a better way to say it is that it's show not tell.
Yeah, it's definitely show not tell, and it's in the end it gets really show not tell, and it's like introduces like religious symbols into the movie, and it's just never explained, and it's like suddenly one of the replicants is holding a white dove, and it's like, sure, this means something, I just don't
Yeah.
understand why or what
And
it
all of a
means.
sudden, like in the middle of the like final quote unquote battle or what you're supposed to call it, he just
Yeah.
fucking sticks a like a knife or like a nail into his hand, and you're like, well, why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Like, how is this relevant to anything?
But I mean, it's interesting because it makes you think. It's like, oh, is he like at the end of his life cycle and his body's like starting to decay and he needs to like hurt himself to be able to move, or is this just bullshit that they put into the movie because let's have him stab himself?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, let's get into. But yeah, my general thought about Blade Runner is that I did not like the original Blade Runner, and you're like, it's fine, right?
Yeah, I think it was interesting, but I agree. It's definitely. I think you have a point that
Yeah,
it's definitely not fault proof.
yeah. So, but getting into Blade Runner 2049, I really, really, really like this movie a lot.
Okay, tell me why you like the movie.
So first of all, it does everything that the original Blade Runner does, but better.
Mm.
I think it does every single part of Blade Runner better and in a more interesting way. Um, and it's definitely not like a retread of Blade Runner, like something like
No.
Force Awakens is not treading down on Force
Let's
Awakens.
blow
I
up
like
the
Force
star,
Awakens.
Death Star again. Yeah.
Yeah, let's blow up the not Death Star again, but
It's bigger and
yeah.
better than Death Star. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Kay was a really interesting character. I thought all the other characters in the movie were really good characters. And when we're gonna get more deeper into spoilers later, I'm gonna talk about my bigger problems with the movie, because there's one significant problem I have with the movie, and that was what brought me out of the experience. But yeah, I thought in general, and I really love the movie. It's beautiful. It's even more beautiful than the original somehow. Like
That's saying something. It's really impressive.
yeah, there's like a saying in movies where every frame is a painting, and that is definitely true in this movie.
Yeah.
You
And
could fill a room with screenshots from this movie. It is so beautifully made.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know if I think you have to watch the. Oh yeah, let's not get into that. That's
Actually, I think you can really talk about 2049 a lot without spoiling it. So I think we're just gonna cut the review short here and talk about spoilers soon. But first of all, if you haven't watched 2049 yet, this is what you have to do. You have to watch the original Blade Runner. I think you definitely have to watch the original Blade Runner. Oh, you don't have to watch it, but it is highly recommended that you watch the
Encouraged,
original Blade Runner, because that will introduce you to characters like Deckard, and it will introduce you to just the concepts of the movie. And one of the major villain in the movie, Neander Wallace, like his where he comes from is like. You kind of have to watch the original movie to understand what he's trying to do. And you should also watch the shorts. All the shorts are on YouTube on Warner Brothers. I think it's Warner Brothers. Yeah, Warner Brothers Pictures YouTube channel.
They're
It
short.
is. Yeah, it is. What are they called? It's Blade Runner 2022, which is called Blackout. And then it's Blade Runner 2036.
There's 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
that's
me-
enough information. Find all 3 of them.
Yeah. Let's search Blade Runner
Yeah.
2049 shorts. I'm just
I
gonna
also think
see
that
what they're all
the-
called.
The movie was great, and it's definitely worth watching. It's worth mentioning that it's really long, but I think they really did use those minutes well for the
Yeah.
most part. So it's
So
worth it.
so yeah, the shorts are Blade Runner Blackout 2022, Blade Runner Nexus Dawn 2036, and Blade Runner Nowhere to Run 2048.
And also Blade Runner Light is Good for Reading 2045, and Blade Runner Ice Skating is not as cool as Blade Running. No, I'm sorry. Those two are not real.
Yeah. But yeah, if you search for like Blade Runner shorts on YouTube, you'll find them. They're officially released on YouTube. So there are 3 shorts, and they're all from Warner Brothers Pictures with the check mark afterwards on them. So yeah, watch all of them in chronological order, and then go see Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. So we are talking
So-
spoilers now, right?
Yeah, first of all, we're just gonna talk like do you recommend 2049 in general?
Yeah, I recommend it.
I recommend it too. So yeah, let's get into spoilers. So if you haven't watched 2049, go watch it and then come back.
Yeah.
Basically. So yeah, I think a great way to start off is with my biggest problem with the movie.
Sure.
So my biggest problem with the movie is something that is deeply rooted into the original movie of Blade Runner, and that is the entirety of 2049. The entire story of 2049 is basically based on the supposed love story between Deckard and Rachel,
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's true.
which, if you've watched the original Blade Runner and you're not like a misogynistic man, you know that was a rape scene. There was no chemistry at all
It's
between Deckard and Rachel.
They even in the movie 2049, they say like during their first meeting between Deckard and his girlfriend, they say like you can see that she's interested because she answers the question in this way. But the truth is, it was really badly presented, and because the relationship was kind of badly presented, it made the like sex scene look really much like it was really rapey.
Yeah, and as I said, this is in the original Blade Runner, and it
Spoil
is because
it.
yeah, we're in
Yeah.
spoilers right now, by the way, and you should have watched the original Blade Runner by now. It's like a 30-year-old movie. But yeah, like that is the biggest problem with 2049, because the entirety, and yeah, you've hopefully seen 2049 by now, and the entire story is based on the fact that a replicant had a child.
Yeah. Yeah, a replicant, yes.
Yeah. So, and this replicant was Rachel, and apparently Deckard and Rachel had they were so deeply in love that they escaped and had a child. And just this doesn't work in Blade Runner. If you're not sitting and trying to make excuses for the original Blade Runner, this part just doesn't work. And as long as you are looking past that, and you're thinking the way that the makers of 2049 are probably thinking, which is okay, let's just kind of soft reboot the original movie and just imagine that it was not a rape scene.
No, yeah, I kind of understand where you're coming from though, because after watching movies discussing the original movie, it is clear that in the end, Deckard and Rachel actually want to flee or elope. So I mean, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the ending of the movie. So I understand that it's continuing from the ending of the first movie.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe the scene was supposed to be more loving in the original, and just the actors didn't do a good job of representing that.
Yeah.
But the sex scene is just so specifically
It's very rapey, but I think
Yeah.
you're correct when you say that they probably had something less rapey in mind. It's
Yeah. But yeah, 2049, you kind of have to look past the fact that there was no chemistry between the characters in the original movie. But yeah, it's kind of a similar situation to Star Wars. Like in the original Star Wars movies, there are like no black people in that movie, and
or women.
or women. So but if you play a game like Star Wars Battlefront, they're basically soft rebooting that because there are both women and black people in Battlefront, which takes place in the original trilogy. So that's kind of soft rebooting the original trilogy in that way, and I think that's kind of a similar. That's why I said soft rebooting the original movie in Blade Runner 2049.
So basically, the concept of the movie is this child that was born of a replicant anyway.
Yeah. So, wow, where do you even start talking about
Yeah, I mean,
how
I think
Blade Runner 2049 is so great?
I mean, I think it's so great because there's so many plot twists, and it's hard to say that the child is like very important because it gets introduced, I think, kind of in the beginning, but it's like 30 minutes in at least.
Yeah. So let's just kind of start with talking about who's your favorite character in 2049.
Favorite character, maybe it's K, or maybe it's like, I think they made the AI pretty good too. Like
Yeah, I think
K's girlfriend.
yeah, I think one of the most interesting characters in 2049 is his AI girlfriend, Joy.
Yeah.
Because Joy is like, it is this perfect match between she is a complete AI, like she can think on her own, but at the same time she's a product of a company.
And you don't notice this in the beginning. In the beginning, you think she is more individual, and that her affection towards K is something special, and she says multiple times that you're special, K.
Yeah.
But then in the second half of the movie, even though
After
she's
Joy
dead,
dies.
yeah, she's dead. You kind of get the feeling that, whoa, she was really programmed this way. There are multiple Joys, like AIs out there similar to her, and they all like do the same
Yeah.
thing.
I think it is implied from the beginning of the movie that there are multiple Joys, like that she is a product.
Yeah.
But it is like when after Joy dies and Kay kind of meets this like giant hologram that is basically an advertisement for Joy, and this advertisement for Joy calls her Joe, which is what Joy named Kay into. But that asks just a different question, like, while she was a product, she was designed and programmed specifically to love the customer
The owner,
of
yeah.
yeah. So, but the question is, does that matter? The question, like, it's a much deeper question. Like, does it actually matter if you had a personal connection? Does it matter that it was manufactured? You know?
Yeah. And that's why she's one of the best characters in the movie, because they really performed this brilliantly. They really presented this really good. And also, I think one of the female characters in the movie, like hinted at, like in the middle of the movie or something, he meets this. I think she's a prostitute, but I'm not sure. You know who I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The girl who looks like Katy Perry.
Yeah, the girl who looks like Katy Perry, and
Yeah.
she notices Joy on Kay, like he's carrying Joy around, and she says something like, "Oh, you're not interested in people."
Yeah, you're not interested in real girls. And yeah, that was just like an interesting thing. Like, AIs are so prevalent in this world that there are just some people who just don't like real people.
Yeah.
So that was also really interesting.
That was very intense. That's they presented a really big concept in the movie just by like one dialogue line.
Yeah. And what is also interesting about 2049 is that You have real people, you have replicants, and you have AI this time around. And like the original movie is asking questions, and this movie as well is asking questions of, even if you're a manufacturer, even if you're a manufacturer, even if you're created, and but you're still self-conscious, you're still like you basically work like a human in basically every way. Doesn't that make you human? And it asks the question again with the AI, like
Yeah, and that's one more step towards being manufactured. I think the replicants are more human than the AI, but
yeah.
still the AI even kind of is human.
Yeah, and that's the more interesting thing about the AI as well, because the AI are manufactured to love the customer, but that is because they are manufactured to do that. Everything else about the AI is like a person,
Yeah,
They
but
act like a person. They're capable of talking like a person. They're capable of thinking like a person. They're capable of working like a person in every way, except they have these like strings in their mind that makes them work a specific way. So that's the
yeah,
question that this shows up with the AI again. Like, if you were to make an AI that is not programmed to do a specific purpose, does that make the AI human as well?
but I still think like with the AI, if we compare AI and replicants, I think that there's a difference because the AI is basically copy pasted. So they're very similar, the AIs.
Yeah,
But the replicants are actual people. The
yeah,
AI is probably only code that is
yeah,
almost
exactly.
sentient. But the replicants, I think they are pretty much human. But the AI
Yeah,
still
they
I
are
still think
human in pretty much every way.
yeah, but the AI I think is actually not human.
Yeah, and that kind of that asks the question of like the rights of robots and stuff in the future, basically. Like, when a robot is capable in the future, when an android is capable of doing things that human can, and they're able to have emotions and all this stuff, like, does that make them human? And that's the kind of question that the movie asks about AI.
Yeah. And where is the line? Where does like the line go between being like a human or a replicant or being just like a program?
Yeah, exactly. And the AI gives a great contrast to that, because the replicants are, in the original movie, the replicants are seen as, they're not like, the original movie definitely presents itself in a way that replicants are not good. And
Mm.
that's kind of the mindset that you have throughout the movie. And in this movie, replicants and humans are so mixed together
I don't
that
agree. I think that the replicants are the good guys in the first movie.
yeah, but the movie, yeah, they are the good guys, but they're presented as the bad guys. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Okay. Yeah.
But in this movie, the question is more like, it's more about like, the humans and the replicants are so similar in every way that when you introduce this concept of the AI, which is closer to the metaphorical line,
Mm.
that's when it kind of gives this contrast that lets you see the fact that, oh, the replicants are actually humans.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it asks the questions: if the replicants are human, does that mean the AIs are human as well?
Yeah.
In a way, like,
Precisely.
it asks this just extremely layered question, which it is what I love about
And
Blade
it's
Runner
really
2049.
interesting because the replicants, I mean, for all intensive purposes, they feel like humans, and they basically are already humans. It's only that they have like this switch in their mind, so they can't really go against their master. So they're like, they're
Except they do. The AI, like, Joy does.
oh, I'm
Like,
talking about the replicants.
oh, the replicants, yeah. But that's not true either. Kay does that as well.
Yeah, is he one of the like newer models or is he too old?
Yeah, he's one of the newer models.
Yeah, he is. That's true. He does lie. So that's very interesting because they are supposed to not be able to go against their masters, but he does hide information and so from them.
Yeah. But yeah, let's start talking about the questions that this movie asks, because there are a lot of them. But yeah, let's talk about more of the narrative in the movie. What do you think about just the simple A-line story of the movie, which is like, which is kind of K on this like detective story throughout the movie of figuring out the origins of this child.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think it's good because in the beginning, in the first half of the movie, basically, it's very it's like they show and they tell. They're very, it's much more like tell than it was in the first movie. You get things explained to you. You get introduced to the AIs, to the replicants. The replicants speak to each other like, you are part of a bad system, and it's like they explicitly explain the problems.
Yeah, but at the same time, every scene isn't an exposition dump, you know? Like, there's only really one exposition dump in the entire movie, and that's the scene with Harrison Ford and Jared Leto when the copy of Rachel shows up.
Yeah.
Like, that scene is a massive exposition dump. But yeah, like, the movie is better at showing, and it's also telling at the same time. Yeah. But it's not telling too much. That's what 2049 does well.
I think it was a bit too telling in the beginning, at some points. Especially when he visits the girl in the bubble, basically Harry, like Shep Deckard's daughter.
Yeah.
And she said, and basically it's like, oh, so you're making memories. Yes, I'm really good at making memories. And it's understandable that she's good at making memories because all she does is being inside this bubble all of the time because she can't go outside it. But
yeah,
Deckard, like Kay, still has to ask, so why are you so good at making memories? And that I think was a bit too much. I think like the...
Yeah, I understand that. At the same time, I really like that scene because like her making memories is almost like it's almost like the filmmaker making the movie, you know? Like she's basically the movie maker of this universe, you know?
Yeah.
But I do agree that it was a bit of an exposition dump as well.
Yeah, but otherwise it's especially in the other half of the movie, it's just they just stop talking about what is going on and it's just show. And that's good because you've already been introduced to most of the concepts, so it works.
Okay, so there were a lot of plot twists in the movie. So in the beginning of the movie, you're led to think that Kay is the son of Deckard. Yeah. So, but later on, they're kind of like, oh, you thought you were the son? And I was like, what? He's not? So did that work on you as well? Did you think that he was the son?
I think there was only one thing that made me not think he was the son. And that was that he actually was so powerful that he had like this Nexus 8 things on him. He was like a newer replicant. He was an angel and he had powers that earlier replicants I don't think they had. So that was like going against the concept, but I still think they really did a good job at making us, the audience, think he was Deckard's son.
Yeah.
But there was hints that he wasn't.
Yeah, it was definitely a hint that he wasn't. But that didn't really bother me. Well, that didn't really hit with me until afterwards.
But that's really good because it made us question. There was like a 1 hour of the movie where we were just questioning, is he really Deckard's son or is this implemented memories?
Yeah, and it was like this moment, like it wasn't like there wasn't like a moment like, are you actually his son?
Yes, I mean no, you're not his son.
we don't know this. Like, no, it's a question that
question.
it's a question that is asked by the viewer and isn't explicitly asked on screen. Let's see, what I was thinking about a specific part of the movie that I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember right now. I don't know.
I have something I can talk about in the
Yeah?
meantime, and that is I was confused because first of all, the main concept of the movie is about this replicants making babies, and
Yeah.
replicants making babies. The new porno. No, but the bad guy. What was his name?
Neander Wallace,
Neander Wallace.
the guy played by Jared Leto, right?
Jared Leto. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wants his replicants to be able to recreate. He wants them to multiply. So,
Yeah, because he can't make them fast enough himself.
yeah. And that kind of just goes against. There's like no real issue because the replicants, they want to be able to multiply too, to prove that they are human.
Yeah, but the difference between them is that the replicants wants to be able to multiply because that makes them human,
Yeah.
while Wallace wants them to be able to multiply so he can just make slaves faster. So that's
Yeah.
the big divide there.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, one of them wants freedom and to like mix into human society, so they cannot really be. No one can tell who's the replicant.
Yeah,
while-
and one of them just wants a faster production line.
Yeah, so he'll probably just keep them in the factory and have them make babies. So
Yeah.
they still. So one of them makes them more human, and one of them makes them less human, but they're doing the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So what did you think about the visuals in the movie?
They're beautiful.
Like the special effects and stuff like that?
Yeah, very nice colors and the design of things. What do you think?
Yeah, let's talk specifically about the Rachel scene.
The giant Rachel scene. Like
No,
the early
no,
one.
no, the scene with
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rachel is the
I was thinking Joy. Yeah.
yeah,
of course.
Rachel is the girl from the first film, but yeah, like the scene where Wallace has made a copy of Rachel.
Mm.
And when I saw that, like, I was blown away. That looked so incredibly real.
Yeah. That was perfect.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy. Like, and a lot of people have been like, "Oh, it looked fake." It's like, dude,
No,
just
that looked
fucking get
real.
over yourself. That looked fucking real.
That was some of the best CGI I've ever seen, and I mean, it's even better than Star Wars Rogue One, where Leia is made into like
Yeah.
CG.
Yeah, like, that was crazy how good that looked. Like, completely insane. And just the way that scene goes, where Deckard is like, her eyes are green, and they just fucking shoot her in the head.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a cool and brutal scene.
That was such a mind blower, you know. I wasn't shot in the head or anything, but my mind
Literal
was blown.
mind blower. But yeah, okay, so this movie has a lot more action than the original movie, and I like that a lot. Because in the original movie they even present like, oh, the replicants, they're stronger than humans and all that stuff. And stronger and all they're better in pretty much every way,
They're
but they never
smarter.
present that. They never present that in a way. And one of the coolest scenes in 2049 is just this short moment that just kind of flashes by, and that's when they're running away from the people that are hunting them after Kay finds Deckard, and Deckard kind of runs with his dog and locks the door behind him, and then Kay comes and just fucking bursts through the wall.
Yeah, that was really like.
Like, that looks just so
Yeah.
fucking cool. I was like, holy shit, fuck yeah.
It was good action. You understood that. Oh yeah, he's a replicant.
Yeah.
Deckard's
like that,
not a replicant, probably.
Yeah, it was just such a cool visual. Like it just fucking bursts through the wall and like doesn't even worry about it. But let's talk about what I think is the best. And I think we have to kind of wrap up this discussion now. But to kind of finish up our discussion of the movie, like the final scene, or like the next to final scene, which is the fight between Love and Kay.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the most intense fight scenes I've seen in my entire life, I think.
It was a good fight. It was a good fight scene, and it wasn't just an action fight scene. It actually had like underlying substance in it. Like it felt like you understood the characters better when you watched it, and especially this I don't remember her name, but Neander's like personal replicant.
Her name was Love.
Yeah, she said something like "I'm the best," and that's what
Yeah.
he had told her earlier, and that like really made us understand her character. She really thought she was the best, and she really liked her master probably, and wanted to like see herself as better than
Yeah.
the other
So
replicants.
I was listening to the Game Grumps has a podcast now, and they were talking about Blade Runner, and they had just the best name for her because they couldn't come up. Well, they couldn't remember her name, so the like the main villain,
Best girl.
his name is Neander Wallace.
Yeah.
So they called her Gromit.
Grumps.
Wallace and Gromit. So during the entire discussion, they're just like completely seriously naming her, calling her Gromit. It's so funny.
That's smart.
Yeah. But anyway, the fight scene between Gromit and Kay, or Lava, I should say. Like, I thought it was so intense. It was so well shot, and apparently they shot that scene for like 2 weeks.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Fighting for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Filmed in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy how doesn't even, you can't even see the fact that it's shot in different days and all that stuff is so well done. But yeah, I think it's so intense. Like when they get into the final section of that fight where Kay is strangling her,
Yeah.
and it's first like he's kind of being pushed under the water and all this stuff, and then finally he gets on top and he pushes her under the water, and I was like so like on the edge of my seat. I was like, come on, oh my god, what's happening? Like I was so tense, and while this scene was happening, and like the best like the most impactful parts are when you see everything from her perspective.
Under the
You
water.
can like see this, yeah, in the water, and you can see this just kind of blurred out face.
Yeah, and I think that's actually something the film succeeded in, is that they have scenes that doesn't necessarily have any underlying like meaning, but because they are like so filmed the way they are, it makes you think that there might be something behind it, or it like make you speculate about, is she seeing like Kay, or is she seeing someone else in the blurred face? Like it just makes you think about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I really liked this movie a lot. If you're still listening to this and you haven't watched the movie, what the fuck are you doing? Go watch the fucking movie.
Yeah, even though we've spoiled you, you should still watch the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, and I mean, our spoiler discussions on here are so disjointed. Like, I don't even know like how to go through and dissect a movie in a good way. But I hope
Yeah,
you
you
enjoyed
probably
this
don't
discussion.
understand if you've
I ho-
not watched the movie.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this discussion in some way at least. But yeah, okay, okay. Just one final thing. What did you think that the dream girl was the daughter. Like when they actually revealed that there was a daughter and not a son, was she your first thought? Your first kind of...
Absolutely not.
Yeah, same here. I was like, oh, it was her?
No, I thought it was Katy Perry.
Katy Perry, really?
Yeah, it's like the only girl main character replicant, I think,
Yeah.
that we saw in that context. So I thought, oh, they're protecting Katy Perry or something.
Yeah, but actually, when they actually present the fact that it is her, like, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah, but I
Actually,
kind of
because when in this scene where he shows her the memory that he wants to know if it's real or not,
yeah,
like when it's first being presented to you, she starts to cry,
yeah,
and you think like she starts to cry because she becomes sentimental of the memory, like, oh, this is a horrible memory, you know.
yeah,
But when it's actually revealed that the daughter is her,
yeah.
you start thinking like, oh, she's crying because this is her memory.
Yeah, there's definitely enough evidence for like her being the daughter to make it seem
Yeah.
fair. And I mean, I kind of didn't get it, but in the beginning they say something about her parents needing to go or something, go away. I don't remember,
Yeah.
but it's still like, yeah, okay, her parents are gone. She cried during the memory. It's enough to make it feel fair,
Yeah.
don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a great movie, and the twist was really well done.
All of them. All
Yeah,
like
all the twists.
5 or whatever.
But yeah, I think that is pretty much it for this podcast. Today's show. Seems like we were going on for about an hour and 40 minutes, so we pretty much hit the mark.
Yeah. That's good discussion, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see
Um,
you next time,
well-
I guess.
Yeah, so we'll see you next time. Please like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Dennis_Lofgren. You can follow the channel on Twitter at Rebreak Radio. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.